Hello everyone, welcome to another ranking video. This video I'm going to be doing a little differently than what I usually do. Usually I pick an artist and I rank all their studio albums from, their least best or to their best, or my least favorite to my, all-time favorite of the artist. And again, it's just my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean I'm wrong. I know I get a lot of hate in the comments, people telling me I suck and my opinion is shit, but then again, it's my opinion, not no one else's. But I love seeing your guys' opinion, your ranking. And for this video, why I'm doing something different is I don't own all the CDs by this artist, and this artist is one of my favorite artists of all time. I'm talking about Bob Dylan. He has way over 20 studio albums. I don't own them all, especially the newer ones I never really got into. His voice definitely didn't age well. So basically, I just narrowed it down to my 10 favorite Bob Dylan albums, and I'm going to start it from 10 and go down, and I'm going to give a little explanation of why I pick. Been coming in number 10 for me is The Times They Are Changing. Released in 1964, obviously features the iconic title track, some other really cool songs in here. Ballad of Hollis Brown, I always love the acoustic guitar work on that. With God on Our Side is it was a modest folk song. Not a huge fan of it. Oni and Paul in Their Game is really cool. When the Ship Comes In, and The Lonesome Death of Paddy Carroll is definitely a haunting song. Definitely a sign of the times. Obviously the 60s, with the Vietnam War starting, President John F. Kennedy was just assassinated, and a lot of civil unrest and things like that. So yeah, you kind of got Dylan's face there looking a little concerned, a little more aggressive, and his lyrics definitely reflect his his views at the time of the whole country, of what was going on in the world, mainly, not just the country United States. All right, coming in number 9 for me, this is another album that came out in 64, later 64. This is another side of Bob Dylan. Features the hits All I Really Want to Do, My Back Pages, It Ain't Me Babe, probably the most famous song off of here. Chimes of Freedom, which is great. The Byrds covered that. Black Crow Blues, I always love that. Spanish Harlem Incident, another cool protest song. Chimes of Freedom, excuse me, another cool protest song. I don't know, I just love this album. I always thought it was really cool. My Back Pages is definitely something cool, especially for the times that it came out in 64, and he's kind of explaining the current events that's going on. This is the SACD remaster, in case anyone's wondering. This is Dylan's last all acoustic album before he would start going electric. And I just feel like closing with It Ain't Me Babe, it's kind of like foreshadowing what was to come. Dylan kind of moved on. He's ready to be a rock and roll star as opposed to a folk singer. And I don't know, I just feel like there's hidden messages in It Ain't Me Babe. Coming number 8 from 1967. This is John Wesley Harding. Late 67, this was released right after Bob Dylan's motorcycle crash, the infamous one, where he basically went to Big Pink, which is a house out in Woodstock, New York, with the band, and he recorded this masterpiece. It's kind of like one of the first indie folk albums, and again, the band is not featured on here. I'm saying Big Pink, the house, is where the band lived, and they rehearsed, and obviously their amazing debut album, Music from Big Pink, came out. Features Charlie McCoy on bass, Kenny Buttery on drums, Pete Drake on a steel guitar, all vocals, guitars, obviously harmonica, by Bob Dylan. Just a cool album. It's basically indie alt country rock. Some touches of folk still on here. The title track, John Wesley Harding, such a cool opener. All on the Watchtower, the original version, which obviously will be later covered by Jimi Hendrix, and it may be one of the greatest covers of all time. Drifter's Escape is cool. Dear Landlord was later covered by Janis Joplin. The Wicked Messenger, another great song, and then I'll Be Your Baby Tonight. Definitely, I feel like foreshadows his next album, which was to come after this next studio album. So yeah, really cool album by Bob Dylan, John Wesley Harding. Coming in number 7 for me, Bob Dylan's sophomore release that did not disappoint. This is the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's debut album came out in 1963 and didn't really make a huge impact. But this next album started, people started looking at Dylan. Opens up a Blowin' in the Wind, which is a huge single. Dylan's first big single, especially huge in the 60s, a protest song. Girl from the North Country is cool, but I liked when they redid it again with Johnny Cash. Masters of War, such a great protest song. Amazing song. This whole album is just amazing. Heart Rate's Gonna Fall. What can be said about that? Don't Think It Twice, It's Alright. One of my personal favorite Dylan tunes from the early 60s. And I just love the artwork. You could tell it's, most definitely in New York. He's walking down the street. Probably in Greenwich Square. Features his girlfriend at the time, Susie Rotolo, who had this on the cover. And again, this is another SACD release. These came out in 2003, I believe. Yeah, 2003 SACD release. And I grabbed some of these back then, and then some of them, like Blonde on Blonde, I played it so much that I had to rebuy it on a remastered, just record jewel case. So yeah, that is, what was that, number 7? Number 7 for me, Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. Coming number 6, from 1975, this is Desire. Such a cool record. I love always loved the artwork. I love Dylan's threads there. Part of that Rolling Thunder review. Love the hat. Opens up with the 7+ minute Hurricane, which is a protest written for Reuben Carter, whose nickname was the Hurricane. He was falsely tried for a murder that he didn't commit, and basically you can listen to this whole song and it'll tell you the entire story, or you can Google it. Maybe a little controversial now with some of the words he uses in the song, but then they're in ISIS. Mozambique features Emmylou Harris on this, so a lot of backing tracks. It's just cool stuff. One of my all-time favorite Bob Dylan songs, One More Cup of Coffee, is on here. Joey is great, and then Sarah, the epic song to end this album, which basically is just telling of the failure of his marriage to Sarah. I believe her last name is pronounced Loendes. I forget how to pronounce her last name. But basically, this is just his breakup song to Sarah, and they would get divorced around this time, and not far after that. Okay, now we're getting into the top 5. Number 5 for me, Nashville Skyline. Such a cool record. This is one of those records that, like, it got me into that country steel guitar slide vibe. I don't know how to explain it. It's just so cool. Coming from this guy who was started as a folk artist into a rock star, and then he's doing country. This features the Girl from the North Country, re-recorded with featuring Johnny Cash, who is obviously one of the biggest country stars of all time. Nashville Skyline Rag, such a cool instrumental. To Be Alone With You, I Threw It All Away, Peggy Day, just a cool song to end the first side of this album. Then the big hit that came off of this, Lay Lady Lay, and ending with Tonight I'll Be Staying Here With You. Now Dylan kind of changed his voice again for this album, and it's almost more soulful. There's a cool picture there of Johnny Cash and Dylan. SACD again. Always love that picture of Dylan. Yeah, just a cool vibe. I love his voice on this, and unfortunately, this is the only album he'd really do where using his voice. The follow-up to this, New Morning, there's little hints of it, but he's kind of going back to his own signature voice. But like I was saying with John Wesley Harding, doing the ending of John Wesley Harding was kind of foreshadowing what was to come with this album, but no one expected this. I mean, even the cover, Dylan's, that's the little kind of afro he had, the puffed up hair, the curls he had, it's gone, and he just looks like a country hobo on here. Love that album. Coming in number 4, from 1974, Blood on the Tracks. One of those albums, you just put it on from start to finish. It's great for like rainy days. It's great in the winter. It's great on sunny days. It's just great. to listen to any type of weather. Tangled Up in Blue, one of the big hits off of here. Simple Twist of Fate, another hit. Idiot Wins, such a cool, probably one of his most perfect, kind of retelling songs since Like a Rolling Stone. I kind of feel like it's Like a Rolling Stone Part 2. You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome When You Go, still got a little of that country vibe on it. Meet Me in the Morning, Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts, If You See Her So Low. Shelter from the Storm. May be my favorite track off of this. Such a cool song. And it ends with Buckets of Rain. And this is basically Dylan's like big comeback album. He really didn't make a really great album since Nashville Skyline, so this is probably his best album in the 70s and the best thing he's done since Nashville Skyline. Even though New Morning I do love, and it was pretty great. SACD again. Okay, now we're down to the top 3. Coming number 3 for me. Kind of hard to rank 2 albums better than this. Bring It All Back Home. Dylan's first electric album, released in 1965, and I just love the cover artwork. Always loved it. And I forget the name of the model on there, but you kind of see, it's Lyndon Johnson on the Time magazine, Fallout Shutter. Again, just showing the times, and this just opens like a rocket. Subterranean Homesick Blues. Like, you went from this folk star to Subterranean Homesick Blues. Such a crazy rocker. Nothing like it before. He's almost rapping in it. She Belongs to Me, another electric track, but he calms it down a little bit. And then Maggie's Farm, a crazy protest song that's just balls to the wall, loud heaviness. So heavy for Dylan. Love Minus Zero, No Limit, Outlaw Blues, and On the Road Again, and then finally side 1 ends up with Bob Dylan's 115th Dream to end it. Side 2 is all acoustic, so if you didn't like Dylan going electric back in the day, you can always flip it over and just listen to side 2, which opens with Mr. Tambourine Man, which obviously was made, huge, really famous by the Byrds. Gates of Eden, It's Alright Ma, I'm Only Bleeding, and in my opinion, kind of like Dylan's farewell to folk by It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, because after this, Dylan would just skyrocket to be up with the Beatles as one of the biggest stars in the world. Alright, number 2. 1966, this is Blonde on Blonde. This was, I believe, the first ever double rock album. I believe it foreshadowed Frank Zappa's Freak Out, which was released the same year. Opens up with Rainy Day Women, number 12 and 35, which is basically, if you know the song and you're kind of wondering why it sounds a little strange, is the artist actually switched instruments, and they were playing their same chords on different instruments, so that's why it sounds weird. Pledging My Time, Visions of Johanna, such a great track, one of my favorite Dylan songs of all time. One of Us Must Know, Sooner or Later. I Want You, Stuck Inside a Mobile with the Memphis Blues again. Always love that title, so cool. It's kind of a mouthful, but it fits it. Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat, bluesy track, and the first record in '66 would end with Just Like a Woman, big hit for Dylan. The second record would open with Most Likely You Go Your Way and I'll Go Mine. Again, Dylan's own version of rock and roll blues at times. Excuse me. Mouth's getting a little dry. Absolutely Sweet Marie. Fourth Time Around, which was kind of inspired by the Beatles' Norwegian Wood, which was, written and sang by John Lennon, and apparently made John Lennon paranoid when he heard it the first time. Story I heard. Obviously, Five Believers. Awesome blues track. And it ends with Sad Eyed Lady of the Lowlands, which was written for his soon-to-be wife Sarah, and I believe it clocks in like around 14 minutes, and such a cool song, such a great ballad by Dylan. And I always loved that cover art. When I was a teenager, I actually had a brown jacket that matched this one. Such a cool album. And yeah, I had the double SA CD in 2003 when it came out, but I literally played it so much that I had to get rid of it and buy this remastered version, which is in dual disc. Alright, the number 1 Bob Dylan record, which you probably guessed already. Not only my favorite Bob Dylan record, but one of my favorite records of all time, and one of the greatest records of all time that you can't argue with. Highway 61 Revisited. Opens up with Like a Rolling Stone, which is one of the greatest singles of all time. It was ranked by Rolling Stone magazine back in, I believe, 2004 or 5 as the #1 rock song of all time, and it's kind of hard to argue with. Tombstone Blues with Mike Bloomfield's guitar work is just incendiary. I mean, such a hard rocker, such heavy stuff on here. It takes a lot to laugh. It takes a train to cry from a Buick 6. Ballad of a Thin Man. Such a cool, paranoid song, very haunting. And Lennon would reference it later on the White Album with Your Blues, when he steals Queen Jane Approximately, which would open the second side of this album. Cool small minor hit for him. Highway 61 Revisit, which may be the only rock song to feature a wooden train whistle played by Al Cooper. Not Alice Cooper, Al Cooper, who also plays organ on Like a Rolling Stone. And Al Cooper, I believe, was a guitarist, but Dylan made him play organ on this. Just like Tom Thumb's Blues, a cool uplifting song to almost end the album, but then you get the 10+ minute Desolation Row. Such a cool track, and the poetry on this album and Desolation Row itself is just amazing. I mean, there's so much that could be taken from it, and it comes with these cool liner notes that were written by Dylan himself. These were featured on the back of the original LP, and as was a lot of his albums at the time. I believe his first 5 albums may have all had the written notes by Dylan, and later albums would also. So yeah, my #1 all-time favorite Bob Dylan record, Highway 61 Revisited. #2, Blonde on Blonde from '66. #3, Bring It All Back Home. #4, Blood on the Tracks. #5, Nashville Skyline. #6, Desire. #7, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. #8, John Wesley Harding. #9, Another Side of Bob Dylan. And #10 was The Times They Are Changing from 1964. Again, this is just my ranking of only 10 of Dylan's records over the 20+ studio albums he has. And thanks everyone for watching. This is part 1 of a video I'm going to do today. I'm going to do another video on Frank Zappa coming up next. If you like what you see, you want to see more of my collection, you can follow me on Instagram at Gary of the Elysiums, and now on TikTok, showing my collection. And my band's getting started again.